Otis Williams is an American singer who has a net worth of $8 million. Otis Miles, Jr. was born in Texarkana, Texas in October 1941. He is best known for being the last surviving original member of the Temptations. As a teenager, Williams started singing groups including Otis Williams and the Siberians, the El Domingos, and the Distance. In March 1961, Williams was signed to Motown as part of the group The Temptations. The Temptations have sold tens of millions of albums. They have released 43 studio albums, and their hits include the singles My Girl, I'm Gonna Make You Love Me, Just My Imagination, Running Away With Me, and Papa Was a Rollin' Stone. They won 3 Grammy Awards and the 2013 Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1989 and have been inducted into the R&B Music Hall of Fame. Over the years, the Temptations have had over 20 members, but Williams remains the last original member. He's been married 3 times and dated Florence Ballard of the Supremes and R&B singer Patti LaBelle. In June 2004, Williams was the victim of a death hoax that spread on Facebook. Williams is alive and well. Otis Williams says the sky is the limit for Motown legends, The Temptations. Motown's The Temptations get new musical following their remarkable journey becoming Hall of Fame legends. When they sold out the LA Forum, Motown legends The Temptations found their soulful harmonies and slick choreography proved a little too tempting for some of the 17,500-strong crowd. The girls started coming towards us, Otis Williams, the group's only surviving original member, tells me with a chuckle. They couldn't catch me, one leap and I was over. But Eddie didn't make it. He came back to the dressing room half naked. They had stripped him down to just his shorts. That concert, in Inglewood, California, was in the summer of 1968. By when the Temps had notched up a string of sublime hits including My Girl, Get Ready, and Ain't Too Proud to Beg. If it was wild in the audience, it was a lot crazier backstage. Tenor Otis, 81, recalls an incident in mid-1963 involving original member Elbridge Al Bryant. We were playing Southwest Detroit, and the audience kept calling us back. After the second encore, Paul Williams said, "We can't go back for a third, we can't keep going back on." Then Al, who'd been drinking, used that F word. He said, "You can't tell me what to do." I'm good at reading people, and I could see he was on the verge, but before I could grab his hand, he smashed a beer bottle into Paul's face. We got Paul to hospital. I said, "We've got to let Al go." Mild-mannered Paul talked the group out of sacking Bryant, but after an altercation on stage at that year's Motown Christmas party, there was no way back. Al died of cirrhosis of the liver in 1975. Gifted baritone David Ruffin, who replaced him as lead vocalist, was fired after 3 years because of drugs, raving egomania, and missed performances. He died addicted to crack cocaine in 1991, aged just 50. Paul took his own life in 1973. Bass singer Melvin Franklin and falsetto Eddie both passed away in the 90s. This tragic real-life soul soap opera features in Ain't Too Proud, a new West End jukebox musical that tells the Temptations' story warts and all. The world loved the Temptations, but the Temptations didn't love themselves, says Otis. Once drugs came into play, dreams and aspirations became fragmented. I'm thankful to God for being able to withstand it. Williams, who says Temps now stands for temperance, saw the Tony Award-winning show in Berkeley, California. I was amazed, he tells me. The people around me knew who I was, and in the tender moments they were turning and looking at me as I shed tears. I'm still touched when I see it now. It's a mixture of pain and therapy. Especially as one true life tragedy was the untimely death of his son Lamont in a building site accident. The script, written by playwright Dominic Morisseau, was based on Williams's memoir and includes Ruffin's abusive relationship with Tammy Terrell. Texas-born Otis flew into London last week to meet the UK cast. I'm still amazed our story made it into a Broadway hit, he says. A musical. Wow. To come from living with no frills, come to Detroit and have success. It still feels incredible to me. Otis, then Otis Miles, was raised by 2 wonderful grandmothers steeped in gospel in Texarkana after his parents split and his mother decamped to Detroit. I had to get up and feed the chickens and milk the cow. We had an outhouse. It was basic living. So I appreciate how I live now very much. I thank God every day. The only music Otis ever heard was gospel until his mother took him to Detroit, age 10, when rock and roll was in its infancy. By the age of 14, he'd seen all the greats. Otis began singing on street corners. A lot of groups did back then. We'd sing at parties and recreational places. His group, The Distance, merged with the Prime to become the Elgins, who were signed to Berry Gordy's fledgling Motown label, A Wonderful, Joyous Place, in 1961, changing their name to The Temptations because another group called the Elgins existed. Soul genius Smokey Robinson realized their potential, writing songs for them and producing them. Smokey came up with The Way You Do the Things You Do while he and the Miracles were riding down the Pennsylvania Turnpike. That became our first hit in 1964. Later that year, Robinson saw them pack out Detroit's 20 Grand Club and came backstage with another song for them. He brought us My Girl, our first #1, which became their signature tune. In 1966, Norman Whitfield, a friend from Otis's teens, took over as their producer. Ain't Too Proud to Beg and I Could Never Love Another were early fruits of that collaboration. But when by chance Otis heard Slee and the Family Stone in New York, the Temps gambled on a funkier, psychedelic kind of soul. The resulting 1969 album Cloud 9 sold more than 1 million copies and landed the group and Motown their first Grammy. New songs such as Runaway Child, Running Wild, and their 1970 smash hit Ball of Confusion were more socially aware. And, as the song says, the band played on 1971 saw Just My Imagination go platinum. Then the 1972 classic Papa was a Rolling Stone turned an errant father into a chart-topping triumph. Throughout the highs and lows, 6 feet 2 Otis has remained the glue that held the Temptations together, the one constant. That was the role God had me play, he says simply. Smokey and Berry Gordy called me the Oak. I had to keep the Temps solid. At times, he explains, he had to be like Henry Kissinger. It's been a sensational ride. Otis cites many highs, including a telegram from the Beatles congratulating them on My Girl reaching #1 and being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They notched up 5 Grammys, have their name on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, had their own TV show, and Williams has 40 gold and platinum albums hanging on the walls of his LA home, nicknamed The Summit. 3 times married Otis also dated Patti LaBelle and had a fling with the late Florence Ballard of the Supremes. His actress/model daughter Ellen, 53, once appeared in Seinfeld. UK audiences mean the world to him. Every time I come to your beautiful country, I'm like DZ Arnaz on the I Love Lucy show, except I don't say, Lucy, I'm home, it's London, I'm home. England always felt like our second home. The fans were and are fantastic. I've been falling in love with England ever since our first visit in 1964. Last October, the Temptations and the Four Tops sold out the O2 Arena. English audiences are very receptive, they show you their love. In the 60s, the 5-strong group famously performed with a 4-head microphone with tenor Otis sharing the central mic with David Ruffin. I gave our first 4-headed mic to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and second to the Motown Museum in Detroit. The mic added the G2 to the Temptations. At the Apollo Detroit, the curtains opened and all the audience could see was the 4-headed mic, and they went crazy over it. And when the curtains fully opened, we were already in position. He still fronts the group who perform a 75-minute set. Certain songs have to be in there. We did a show once without My Girl. They called us every name under the sun. Hard work and the show must go on attitude has driven Otis Williams through 7 decades. The big man is already thinking about what comes next.